All right, welcome back again to the OK VetWorks training on franchise 101. And today we talked about last couple of weeks about how we're going to talk about brokers and franchise brokers, how to look for the right ones. So today, I guess the big question for these guys is, what are the biggest challenges that are created by franchise brokers?
Well, it's easy to find a franchise broker because they're going to reach out to you 5,000 times on LinkedIn because you're a former military member.
In the same week.
In the same day. And they're going to try to sell you something as soon as they send it to you. That is not your guy.
So no high pressure sales.
Yeah, no high pressure sales.
Well, and I got to say this, Dave's right. Everybody that has LinkedIn is probably, if anywhere in your profile on LinkedIn it says entrepreneur, sales, veteran, you've gotten a LinkedIn request from somebody that's a franchise broker.
Moshweed reached out to me yesterday from the Philippines to
sell franchise. But it's insane. Okay, now I got to say this because I respect people that are trying to build their business. They're trying to do the right thing. It's just buyer beware. Just be careful. Okay, if that's how you're finding them, I would encourage you to make sure, first of all, they're stateside, because there's a lot of folks that are not stateside. So
I shouldn't work with Moshweed?
Probably not, but we'll talk about that off camera. We'll talk about it off camera.
Okay.
But buyer beware. Just slow down. Trust your gut. Make good decisions. All those good things. So, but I think what I think is some of the biggest challenges, and I'll just jump into the big one, is misrepresentation. Got to remember, franchise brokers are paid a commission from the franchisors. They do not charge you. Now, this reputable. Let me back up. Reputable franchise brokers or consultants do not charge you as a franchisee $1.
What kind?
Huh?
What kind of?
Reputable.
Reputable?
Yeah, reputable. So, folks, these are folks that you would want to work with, okay? Or at least one of the first steps, right? They're not going to ask you for $1. You do not need to pay them because they're getting paid by the franchisors. They're serving as that franchise or that company's franchise development team, right? So they're out there looking for potential candidates. They know what that franchise is looking for. Most good franchise brokers have a big portfolio, but to be quite honest, they work with 5 or 10 franchises primarily because they're experts with those franchises. But they will not ever ask you for a penny. Anybody that's asking you for money, it's a problem, okay? So buyer beware. Dave?
Don't go to a franchise broker that asks you to pay a fee. They're double dipping.
Yeah.
We can't reinforce that enough because there's so many people out there that do that. The second thing you've got to be concerned about is conflicts of interest. So there's a franchise broker that's playing both sides of the ball. Watch out. You got to make sure they're clean. They're not out there to benefit themselves more than they're out there to benefit you as a franchise purchaser. Is that a fair statement?
Fair statement. And that leads me to lack of knowledge, right? I mean, I gave the example before we came on today. Back years ago, everybody became a loan broker. Everybody was a mortgage broker. Yeah. I mean, everybody. I mean, you'd have guys one day were working in the oil field, the next day they were closing loans. And that's fine, I guess. It's not necessarily who I would pick to do that, but that's okay, I guess. Nothing wrong with that. But do they understand business? Do they understand the franchise space? Do they understand what really goes in to launching a business, a franchise? What are the capital requirements? Can they help you get lending if you need lending? Can they help you get counsel from a franchise attorney if you need it? Can they help you find a CPA that specializes in franchising? All these types of things, right? But really, they need to be knowledgeable of the space and not just a list of franchises where they're just trying to get you to say yes to something to collect a fee.
Well, that goes to the next one. And we've talked about it in every episode. If they're pressuring you to sign, run. Make sure you do your due diligence, take your time. If a franchise broker is pressuring you to sign right now, he's not your person or she is not your person.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is, are they there for you after you buy? Now, this is a unique one because I've talked to a lot of franchise brokers and I go, well, I'm a broker. Why would I be there after they buy? And I said, well, let me ask you a question. Did you ever buy a house? Yeah. Did you use a real estate agent? Yeah. If there was a problem afterwards, did they ever call you? Well, yeah, I'd call them. Well, right. I mean, Dave's Dave knows this because we do it, but we've got franchisees that talk to us about their business all the time. And we want to stay in the loop with how they're doing. Number one, we want to help celebrate their victories, help celebrate their successes. If we can give them guidance and help along the way, that's a beautiful thing too. But it shouldn't be a sign the closing documents and never see you again kind of relationship. That's not it's not a very wise move.
And that goes to the next point, a lack of knowledge. If your franchise broker doesn't understand the franchise disclosure document, doesn't understand how the system works, doesn't understand what you need to do to step into that franchise, you need to run away because they haven't done their due diligence and trained to level to help their clients.
But I think in a good broker or consultant, what they'll do is if they do, let's say you go through the assessment, like if you came to us, go through our assessment, we're going through it and we narrowed down maybe a couple different industry types and the different models that you think you're comfortable with. And then we go back and we pull all this data for you. We give it to you. We go over it with you. If you want to go have people look at it, go have people look at it. You come back and say, well, what's next? Well, if we don't know one of those franchises that you've chosen, well, what we will do is we'll still get on the phone. We will call the franchisor. We'll get on Zoom calls with you, have the conversation with their inside people, their franchise development people, so that you can really hear. And then we're your advocates to sit there because we do understand franchising and we can guide you through that, right? But you've got to really, and I know I keep saying this, you got to go slow. This is not something that you need to try to get done in a couple months. Right? And now everybody's a little different. I've had people that bought things quickly, but usually those are folks that are looking at it more from a investment portfolio perspective, and they're wanting to own 4, 5, 10, 20, 30, 50 franchises, right? And they're passive investors. But for the meat and potatoes, the people are looking for a business to run themselves every day. Take your time. Do not get in a hurry.
It's fact. Those are really the big things about choosing a franchise broker. But again, if they're rushing you, run away. If they don't seem competent, run away. If they're working both sides of it, there's a franchisor and a franchisee, run away. Those are the three really big. And if they don't offer follow-up support, step away because it's only going to be a headache for you and you don't deserve that.
Yeah, no, you want to take your time. It's a big decision. Impacts you and your family for years to come. Take your time, do your due diligence, find people that can help you.
Well, great. Thank you guys again on the challenges of franchise brokers. Is so important to understand that. I mean, I love the fact you said that a lot of them don't give you support after the fact.
Yeah.
It's an overnight stand and they're done with you after that. Because a lot of them don't have the knowledge that they need to understand where you're coming from, where they need to match you up with the right franchise. It's kind of like emails and spam, and they tell you not to respond to those things that are so urgent that pressure you to open and look. It's an urgent email. You must do this now or lose whatever. That's too much pressure. There's
too much pressure. Something's there.
Red flags should be flying up
everywhere.
So think about those things that we talked about. Those 5 things there on the challenges of franchise brokers. And the next time we're going to talk about how to find a good franchise broker. Since now we know the bad things, we're going to talk about the good things in the next class. So we'll see you again soon.